always said, once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
Giants fans, welcome back to another episode of Only a Giant. Wanted to do something a little bit different here. Obviously, this is game week. We will get a preview pod out here in the next couple of days as well. Maybe we'll do a little bit of like a pick 'em and obviously a prediction for the game, stuff of that nature. But thanks so much for being here, obviously. And if you could please like and subscribe, I would really appreciate that to help try to grow the channel. So what we're going to do today, we're going to look at 2024 and beyond for the New York Football Giants. Now, this could be maybe kind of like an information-heavy episode here as we're looking at, who's going to be on the roster next year, what positions are in a good spot, what positions aren't in a good spot, and just kind of an overview of what we have moving forward for the New York Giants after 2024. So that's what we're looking at today. Like I mentioned, we will probably get a preview episode out maybe tomorrow, which would be Wednesday, maybe Thursday. We'll go over the Vikings game in detail, what we're looking to expect, who we're looking to step up, what positions are going to be very important in that game, and we'll kind of go from there. But today, specifically, we're going to look at 2024 and beyond for the New York Football Giants. So 5 days away from the season, definitely pumped about that. But let's get right into it, guys. 2024 dead cap money, according to Spot Track, we're 22nd in the NFL with roughly $24 million in dead cap. Now, where does that come from? A big chunk of that comes from Leonard Williams. $10 million of that is coming from Leonard Williams in that trade that basically got us Brian Burns. So something that I don't really worry about. I think we're in pretty good position with dead cap. Another $3 million came from Adoree Jackson. And another $3 million came from Darren Waller's retirement. Now, Darren Waller's does get kicked into next year as well, but it's minimal there. So it's really not anything that you're going to worry about. And that's really what 2025 looks like as of right now, about $5 million in dead cap for 2025. And that's mainly coming from Darren Waller. Now, that could change, obviously, with Daniel Jones, who really knows what's going to happen there. I will kind of get into that a little bit as we look into the future seasons here, kind of moving forward. But I'm not going to worry about that at this exact moment. We'll go kind of position by position, and I guess we might as well start right away with quarterback. One quarterback is under contract after this year, and that is obviously Daniel Jones. Tommy DeVito is an exclusive rights free agent, so good chance he could be back next year, but he's got to make the team still too. So we'll see what happens there. Now, this obviously is a very volatile position right now, I think, for the Giants, just specifically because we don't know what Daniel Jones is going to do this year. Is he going to adopt to this Brian Daboll offense where we're really throwing the ball downfield? You need to be able to make a few reads, really maybe 3, boom, 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 and then make that decision. Obviously, a struggle for Daniel Jones has been making quick decisions and getting rid of the ball quickly, and pulling the trigger on those deep throws where we have, a lot of weapons. So the quarterback position after 2024, only Daniel Jones under contract. That could change. If we do decide to cut him next year is the year that we would do that, as there is, I think, only about $22 million in dead cap for Daniel Jones. Now, that sounds high, but we really have no other dead cap, and that really is the year that we can get out of that. After that, the dead cap hit goes up a bunch. Kind of a common theme with contracts from Joe Schoen is those, 3 or 4 year deals, but really a 2-year deal with a 3rd year out. Seems pretty common. He's done that a few times with some other players as well. So what happens at the quarterback position? We'll see. Daniel Jones has a lot riding on this year for him. I feel like it's kind of like a repeat of 2022, where if he has a good year, then I think he's here after this year. But he can't have a 7-win year where he throws 18 touchdowns and 10 interceptions and missed a game or two of injury. That's not going to do it. We need for Daniel Jones to stay on this roster, be worthy of that contract that he got. We probably need 25 touchdowns. We probably need 8 to 9 wins, and a good feeling about this team moving into the next year, where We had a solid running game. He stayed healthy for every game of the year, and Malik Neighbors looks like a Pro Bowl wide receiver, all pro wide receiver because of the talent, but also because of the production on the field. So that's what I kind of view for the quarterback position. It is kind of scary kind of being in that situation, because if Daniel Jones does not show anything in this year, does not show that he belongs, it's kind of a naked position. There's nothing there. Sure, Tommy DeVito, but I don't think you can go into next year saying Tommy DeVito is your starter. You're probably looking at drafting a quarterback, or maybe finding another quarterback off the free agent, where maybe it's just a bridge quarterback to the next year if they don't really like a quarterback in this class, or maybe go after someone like Dak Prescott, which I don't really see the Giants doing that. I could be wrong, but not something that I anticipate the Giants doing is going after Dak Prescott. Maybe if they're in a year where they really, they get that next year, but Dable's really feeling the heat, and they say, hey, look, we really have to kind of make that move to get a quarterback and show that we're a winner. Maybe then, but I don't think that ownership's going to put that pressure on Dable or Shane. I think they're probably here for another year, barring a disaster year like 2023. I don't think that's going to happen. Knock on wood. Running back position. After this 2024 season, there are 3 running backs under contract at this position. Obviously, Devin Singletary. He's going to be on the team at least for 2025. There isn't out in 2026 where you can get out with only a 1.25 cap hit, 1.25 million cap hit. Other than that, you have Eric Gray on a rookie contract. You have Tyrone Tracy on a rookie contract. It's really all you have at the position. Now, oddly enough, I think I feel fine with that position. Not a lot going on there, but you are comfortable with Devin Singletary. You do want to see what Eric Gray has this year. You want to see what Tyrone Tracy has, kind of a player that you have high hopes in. Let's see what happens after this year for this position. This position, I don't foresee a big overhaul or anything of that nature going into free agency next year. I could kind of see this room staying maybe kind of status quo. If Eric Gray or Tyrone Tracy kind of struggle, maybe another late round running back, or maybe we see what Dante Miller has next year or something of that nature. I don't anticipate this position really changing at all. Wide receiver, probably the position that I have the most confidence in moving into 2025 and beyond, which is kind of weird because you could look at this position last year and say, boy, you don't feel confident with this position at all. But you kind of do at this point with everything that we have going on. Obviously, Malik Neighbors on a rookie deal, hopefully will be a stud and somebody that you look at long-term here. Wan'Dale Robinson was a second-round pick a couple years ago, so we're going to have him for another few years. Jalen Hyatt, still on a rookie deal as well. Now, Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson are probably the two that you feel the most confident about. Wan'Dale looked great coming back in the second half of last year. You kind of assume that you're going to see that type of production again. Jalen Hyatt's probably the one that you feel a little bit maybe just not quite as confident. Obviously with training camp, he looked pretty good, but preseason you didn't really see a lot of production. Now we'll see what happens in the season. That's where you're actually going to see that. The other wide receiver under contract for the 2025 season is Bryce Ford Wheaton, who made the team this year, which was kind of surprising. Biggest mystery, I think, with this wide receiver room is, what is Darius Slayton this year? Is he going to be somebody that is a big contributor this year and somebody that is a free agent next year that may deserve another contract with the Giants? Yeah, that's certainly possible. A lot of that is going to be kind of dependent on Jalen Hyatt, what he does this year, how he looks. Is he able to run routes? Is he more than just a deep field stretcher? Somebody that I do think kind of plays a big impact on what we do moving forward, but I still feel pretty confident with the room itself. I wouldn't be against bringing Darius Slayton back if he looks good this year and kind of flourishes in that wide receiver 2 role. Somebody that Daniel Jones does trust. I think if Darius Slayton is flourishing, it's probably partially because we're having a good season. He's getting looks, getting more looks, some single coverage just based off Malik Neighbors, possibly drawing some double team, stuff of that nature. So if he does have a good year and Jalen Hyatt doesn't really flourish, that's something that I could certainly see happening. Now, kind of an interesting way to look at this as well. Out of those 4 wide receivers that are under contract for 2025 and beyond, 2 are draft picks and Malik Neighbors, and 3 are draft picks with Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Jalen Hyatt. Bryce Ford Wheaton is a UDFA, an undrafted free agent that made the team this year. And then we'll see what happens with Darius Slayton moving forward. So kind of a unique way of looking at this, not really a free agent heavy position at all at this point, as far as players that weren't brought in by this regime. But you could kind of look at that with Darius Slayton, obviously previous regime, something that could potentially make the team depending on how the season goes. Tight end position, guys. 2 players will be on this roster for next year, or at least under contract right now, and that's Daniel Bellinger and Theo Johnson. No real vets other than that. Obviously, Chris Manhertz is here, but he's a free agent going into next year. And that's it, guys. Kind of a weird position where you think there's going to be more there, but there really isn't. You kind of assume there'll be some vets brought in as well, I guess, at this point for next year. Maybe Theo shows enough to be tight end 1 and you're feeling really good about that, and you bring Chris Manhertz back and those are your 3 tight ends and Jakob Johnson. Who knows? That's certainly possible. But when you look at it just as in 2025 and beyond, kind of scary how little depth there is, and you just kind of hope that the rookie Theo Johnson really shows out, and Daniel Bellinger shows he can be a good tight end too. I do see a role in this team for Daniel Bellinger as that tight end too, who can pass block, run block, can be a receiver a little bit. Once again, he's kind of that player that can do a little bit of everything, not great at anything, but just a little bit of everything. We'll jump right over to offensive line, guys, and this is probably the first position where you have that true blue chip player in Andrew Thomas. Other players, you have Evan Neal, somebody that we don't really know what to expect, but was drafted by this team, this regime. Josh Ezeudu, same thing, a 3rd-round pick. Is he a tackle? Is he a guard? Is he on this team long term? Who knows? But he is here in 2025. Jermaine Luminor, really, he had signed kind of more of a 1-year deal, even though I believe it ends up being a 2-year deal. But Giants can get out of that cap or that contract with only a 2.75 dead cap hit next year. Something I don't see happening. I think we'll keep him around for at least another year, but that could be dependent on what Evan Neal does as well. John Runyon, another player that's here until 2026. After that, we could get out with a 2.5 cap hit as well. We'll see what happens there. So the positions was, again, Evan Neal, Josh Ezeudu, Jermaine Luminor, John Runyon, Jake Kubas, UDFA, who, hopefully a developmental guy, and then Austin Schlottman, who can be cut after this year as well. He's on IR now, $250,000 cap hit, and John Michael Schmitz. So you have one really kind of blue chip player in Andrew Thomas, who was brought in by the previous regime. You have some draft picks in Josh Ezeudu and John Michael Schmitz. You have John Runyon as a free agent guy and Jermaine Luminor as a free agent guy. So Jake Kubas also as a UDFA. Not a lot there. You don't feel maybe great about the position itself, but you do feel great about Andrew Thomas being your left tackle of the future. Stud player. He's going to be here for a long time. John Michael Schmitz leaves a little bit to be desired. We'll see what happens with him after this year. Hopefully he has a good year and proves worthy of that 2nd-round pick. John Runyon, you're happy about the signing, but with the Green Bay Packers, kind of everyone forgets a little bit. He wasn't a full-time starter there. He was kind of in and out of the starting lineup. Is he going to be a fit with this offensive line? You sure hope so. Maybe Jake Kubas shows something as well to where maybe next year he can compete for a starting position, and maybe that shows a little bit of development there, and something you feel happy about. We'll see though. Jump right on over to the defensive line, guys, and kind of the same thing. You kind of notice a trend here where you kind of don't feel great about the depth that this team has built so far. The only guy you really feel great about is Dexter Lawrence. You have Rakeem Nunez-Roches will be here for at least next year. Probably the year after that, he does have a $4.8 million cap hit. Someone that is a rotation player, role player. I don't think he's like a long-term giant or anything of that nature, but he's here. Jordan Riley's here, a draft pick. Elijah Chapman, a UDFA, and DJ Davidson all fit on that defensive line. A position I could certainly see looking for some other players at this point as well, going into next year with the draft, maybe free agency, but not a position you feel great about. Obviously, one from the previous regime in Dexter Lawrence, one UDFA and Elijah Chapman, and 3 draft picks coming from Jordan Riley, DJ Davidson, 2 draft picks, and then 1 free agent in Rakeem Nunez-Roches. What do you got after that? Offensive. Outside linebacker position, Kayvon Thibodeaux and Brian Burns. About it. Now, you don't need a lot there, but you do need some depth. Azeez Ojulari is obviously a free agent. You have some other guys like Benton Whitley and some other guys that maybe show promise, but those are really the only 2 guys coming back as of right now for next year. Another position that you need to develop some depth at and hopefully show some promise kind of moving forward. Obviously, Kayvon Thibodeaux was drafted and Brian Burns was brought in by trade. One thing that always kind of seems a little weird to me, guys, is Kayvon Thibodeaux. People are like, hey, he needs to step up. He needs to show more. Dude had 11.5 sacks last year. Now, was he perfect? No. But that is production. That was promise, from his rookie year. I feel great about him being in the system, especially now that you have another pass rusher in Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence being here as well. I do foresee some growth there. And obviously you don't want a step back, but I'm not sitting here being like, oh, you need to see more from Kayvon Thibodeaux. If he comes out with 11.5 sacks again this year, perfect. I'm not unhappy about that. Even if it's, some covered sacks and stuff like that, that's production, guys. I'm not unhappy about that. But that is a position that you need to see maybe a little bit more depth built behind them. A little concerning there. Inside linebacker, Bobby Okereke, probably another guy that you could look at as like a blue chip guy that was brought in as a free agent, somebody you feel very confident in. Now, this is a new defense, so you got to see, hopefully he can, kind of be a stud in this defense as well. You have Micah McFadden that'll be here after this year as well, and Darius Muasau. Isaiah Simmons, a free agent. You really don't have much else after that. Deontay Johnson, free agent, maybe you see something there, maybe it's exclusive rights. But there's not a lot of depth behind Bobby Okereke here. Obviously, you like Micah McFadden, but he's been injured a little bit, and you got to see what he does in this new defense. It might not really be a great fit for him. We'll see. Cornerback. Deonte Banks is obviously going to be a corner piece in this defense. Cordell Flott, Andrew Phillips, and Trey Hawkins. 4 cornerbacks, all draft picks. Kind of a weird position where there really hasn't been a lot of free agents brought in. Obviously, we have other cornerbacks that we brought in too, but these 4 guys are what we're looking at for next year and on. Something that's a little bit unnerving as well is there really is no depth being developed here. Obviously, you have Deonte Banks and you have Andrew Phillips. You have high hopes for. Trey Hawkins hasn't shown much. Cordell Flott hasn't shown much. So a position that I could probably see being another draft pick here moving forward, or maybe we actually bring in a guy and sign someone long-term to a 3 or 4 year deal if Deonte Banks doesn't look like that CB1, but maybe he can hold down a CB2 position. We'll see what happens there. Safety, Tyler Nubin, Dane Belton, and Anthony Johnson Jr. That's it, guys. Another spot where you kind of don't really feel great about. Jason Pinnock is a free agent this year, somebody that you hope maybe that we bring back, but we'll see what happens. Another position group here, kind of in the secondary in general, where, man, you look at it and you feel really kind of not great about. It doesn't feel great. Well, I guess kick return, punt return, those positions are obviously there, but you have your other specialty positions in kicker and punter. Obviously, Jamie Gillian's going to be a free agent next year as well. So what that shows us, 2025 free agents that matter: Darius Slayton, Jason Pinnock, Drew Lock, Azeez Ojulari, Chris Manhertz, Jamie Gillian, Isaiah Simmons, Nick McLeod, who I couldn't think of earlier, Boogie Basham, Gunnar Olszewski, Carter Coughlin. No real crazy surprises or contracts that I think that make a huge difference on this team, but it does for depth. Darius Slayton, is he somebody that needs to be that wide receiver too? Jason Pinnock, can he be a starting a starting safety on this team long term. Drew Lock, is he a backup for us still? Azeez Ojulari hasn't really lived up to anything with the Giants, but is he depth? Probably. Not anything you really feel great about, though, to be completely honest with you. So, like, what are the positions moving forward that you do feel good about? And for me, it's all starter related. It's wide receiver. It's offensive outside linebacker with Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. Running back you feel okay with, but you really don't feel great about your inside linebacker room behind Bobby Okereke. You don't feel great about offensive line behind Andrew Thomas. You have one little developmental piece in Jake Kubas. John Runyon, what is he? Is he someone that's going to be here long term? Is he really just a 2-year stopgap? The defensive back room with Tyler Nubin and Deonte Banks and Andrew Phillips, but like what else? Like, doing this honestly kind of makes me feel a little bit more nervous moving forward because we really seem to be lacking depth even more than kind of what I thought originally, and really shows that these draft classes need to really, really step up here, which kind of makes me nervous going into the future for this team. We may need to be reliant on free agent pickups and stuff of that nature in the future. So what does that look like for 2025 as far as cap space? Do we have cap space? Yeah, we do have a little bit of cap space. We have $44 million as of right now in cap space, and some guys that you may look at as free agents next year that will be free agents: Ali McNeil from the Detroit Lions, Trey Smith from the Kansas City Chiefs, Stephon Diggs if we really needed to bring in another wide receiver if they want to move on from Darius Slayton but don't feel great about Jalen Hyatt. Zach Martin, a little bit older, but coming from the Cowboys, a good offensive lineman. Cam Hayward on the defensive line. Carlton Davis for a cornerback. Jeff Okudah as a cornerback. Asante Samuel Jr., definitely someone I could see bringing in with this team. But all in all, man, you kind of look at it and you don't feel great moving into 2025 and beyond. There are some pieces. Obviously, you have Dexter Lawrence and Deonte Banks and Tyler Nubin and Andrew Phillips, and obviously the wide receivers you have Wan'Dale and you have Malik Neighbors, Andrew Thomas, and some other little pieces here and there. But it's a little scary with the depth on this team. We'll kind of see what happens moving forward here, I guess, at this point. So that's all I got for today's episode. We do have a preview pod coming out in a couple days here that'll go over the Minnesota Vikings New York Giants game this Sunday at 1:00. Very excited about that game. Very excited about that the episode itself as well for doing a preview back to kind of normalcy with the football season being back. We got games on Thursday. We got games on Friday. That game on Friday, I'm a little bit nervous about, just in the general sense of being in Brazil. It makes me nervous that they're having games there, a lot of crime issues, and kind of seems like something that I wish they would probably pull out of if they could, and just have it somewhere in the States. It's probably too late for that at this point, being it's Friday, but hopefully it all goes off without a hitch. South America games make me a little bit nervous, I think, just with everything going on in Brazil. Other than that, guys, we'll see you in a couple days here for the preview podcast. We'll probably do a pick'em and maybe a prediction for the game as well. Let's go Big Blue. Let's have a good 2024 season, and hopefully some of these players can develop to make us feel a little bit better about the 2025 and beyond season. Let's go Big Blue.